First, I want to welcome you out to this important workshop series that we're going to be doing. We got actually two parts to it. This is part one. Today, positioning, planning, and profiting, life cycle approach to business growth is what we're going to be talking about here today. It's going to be exciting and it's going to be interesting for you. I ask that you give us your full attention for these few hours that we're going to be before you. It's going to challenge you to think through some things that perhaps you had not thought about before as you carry forth your business and look at growing your business. That's ideally what we want to think about. How do you position yourself for growth in this new paradigm of the business economy and the business world we see ourselves in? And Mr. Yancey and his team are going to talk a little bit about those kinds of things today here for you. As a matter of housekeeping, of course, we're asking that you silence your phones for number one. Number two, if you need to visit the facilities and all of that, of course, they are out toward the window here, and left and right men's facilities are there. So again, I wanted to welcome you out. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. Minority business development, women-owned businesses development, that's something that really is dear to my heart. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity. There's an underserved, unmet need with regards to women and minority businesses in the marketplace, not just in Pine Bluff or not just in the Delta for that matter. That's a national trend. And so wherever you find that there's a lack of participation, there's also an opportunity for us to really capitalize on that lack of participation. And I have to say, Luke, I've actually spent a good portion of my adult life in trying to pursue this as an opportunity for us to expand upon. I say this also that the university, come in. The University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, of course, a big part of our constituency base is made up of women, minorities, and those that are arriving to us from the lower Mississippi Delta. And so this is a part of what we do as an institution. And I should also say that it's important to us as we look to go forward in our institutional level, that we think about how we can create women and minority entrepreneurs, because it's getting more and more important that we do that as part of our problem-solving mission as well as an 1880 land-grant institution. Now I present to you and bring forward our market partner, our partner in this endeavor today, Mr. Luke Yancey. And I've only known Luke for a short period of time, but I can say this much, that he and I share a like bond in regards to this work and this effort. I can say that without a doubt. He has a fine team of people that he brings with him, and he'll introduce his team later. But I just wanted to introduce him and bring him before you. Some of you have not had this privilege. This is a partner. And let me say something too about partnership. I don't take partnerships lightly, okay? And when I say I'm going to be a partner with somebody, I mean that. I tell people all the time, the root word of partnership is part, and you have to be a part of something in order to be a partner with somebody. And I'm happy today to say that we have partnered with Mr. Luke Yancey and his corporation, Mid-South Minority Business Council Continuum out of Memphis, Tennessee. And so today I present to you Luke Yancey and his presentation. Luke?
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank Henry and the Chancellor for giving us the opportunity to come and talk with you. As Henry stated, we've developed a partnership, and I want to start out first by saying that this is all about you all in the room. This is all about growing minority and women-owned businesses. And this seminar is squarely focused on helping you to grow. And so I wanted to get that out first. I wanted to also introduce my team from Memphis, and I'd like for them to stand and say who they are and what they do. With Ms. Yolanda.
Good morning, Yolanda Dillard. I'm the Director of National Strategy, and I'm responsible for working with the market partners like Henry to make sure that we get folks like you here and deliver the training that we're tasked to deliver. So thank you all for coming, and look forward forward to meeting each and every one of you.
Good morning, I'm Tanya. I'm the Director of Core Development. I'm responsible for the member area training and also bringing opportunities for development for our minority and women-owned businesses that we serve.
My name is Janet Williams, and I'm the Director of I am the Director of Administrative Services for the MMBC Continuum. And I'm responsible for recruiting corporate members and engaging them in their procurement area as it relates to minority and women-owned families.
And then we've got Mike Powers, who will come forward later. He's with the FDIC, and he's becoming a partner of ours as well. With that, I want to kind of give you some background as to why we're here. Well, and I'm going to give you some background too about the MMBC continuum. But we've been around for about 40 years. We grow minority and women-owned businesses. We have partnered here recently with the Delta Regional Authority. Chris Massengill, who many of you know, I know Henry knows him very well, and they funded the university in a major way. But they had noticed some of the successes that we were having in the Memphis region with minority and women-owned businesses. And he and I got together and we talked, and he thought that there were some things that we could share with communities in the Delta footprint, the 8-state area. And we entered an agreement back in November wherein we would come to communities like Pine Bluff, share with you all what we do and how we have been successful in growing minority and women-owned businesses for the market partners in that community to actually get it done. And this whole concept that we're presenting to you today is a concept about collaboration, getting community partners to basically come together and form a formal, what we call business ecosystem, where minority and women-owned businesses can grow from an idea that they may have to rationalize that idea, and then to grow from one stage to the next. And we've done a white paper about the life cycle of minority and women-owned businesses that we will share with you. But the whole concept is to work with Henry and the university, the ERDC, and community partners for them to basically come together and do what they do. Now, they already do it quite well, but we're sharing with them some of the things that we do to actually create a formal system where they work together to help businesses grow. We started this process several weeks ago. We were here 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we met with, Henry brought together about 23, 24 community partners, and we talked about how we need to form a collaborative among them to basically provide to minority and women-owned businesses the services that they need at each stage of their growth. And so they're aware of what they're doing. Henry is leading that charge to put that together. This particular meeting is a meeting with you, the minority and women-owned businesses, to share with you what we're trying to do in Pine Bluff, as well to get you acclimated to a formal system where Henry and the other community partners know who you are. They know where you are relative to your business growth and where you want to go. There may be some of you here today who don't have businesses but are looking to start a business. That is also included in this whole concept of business life cycle. And so I wanted to kind of give you some backdrop of what this is about. But this is about you. This is about us helping you, or Henry and this community helping you, and us assisting Henry in formalizing this system. The system that we're trying to help them put in place is a system that's in place in Memphis, and we're developing it as we speak as well. And so I wanted to give you that background. And so I guess I'm going to be advancing the slides. Okay, I want to give you some background about what we're doing and about MMBC. And we want to talk about a proven minority business development model that works. And you'll see some of the numbers and successes that we've had with minority and women-owned businesses in the Memphis region to show that it does. Again, as I said, you know, the DRA, the Delta Regional Authority, has made a strategic investment to share our successful model with 5 regional partners. All of you all know that the Delta footprint includes 8 states. We've contracted with the DRA to help 5 markets, Pine Bluff being one of those markets. Obviously, we've had our initial meeting with the stakeholders, as I stated earlier. We met with 23 to 24 community partners about a month ago. And then again, this seminar is the next engagement. So what can you expect from today? And I first want to apologize on the front end. We did not realize that we needed more time to do justice to the seminar, but we had already set the stage and so forth. And so what I'm going to ask you to do, we're going to ask you to save your questions to the end of the program. They're going to provide to you question cards if they've not already provided. And when you get to a question that you want to answer, write it down, and then we'll address it in the question and answer stage. As well, there will be a part of the seminar where we're going to give you a little homework. We're going to give you a questionnaire sheet, and I think that there are 3 sheets. One of the sheets will basically ask you for basic information, whether or not you own a business now, or if you want to start a business, if you don't own a business. If you do own a business, what kind of business is it? What are your revenues? How many employees you have? Just basic information about your business. We're going to also give you a sheet later on in the program that's designed for you to put your business ideas down on paper. We're going to try to assist you, if you're an existing business owner, to basically look at your business as it is, to determine if your business is doing what you want it to do. Is it growing? Is it not growing? Are there other sectors that you need to consider being in? We talk about core competencies and secondary competencies. Is there something else that you can do in addition to what you do now to leverage your business assets to basically grow your revenue? And then we'll give you homework assignments to help you. And at the end of this process, the hope is that you're going to have a guide to your business that tells you some things that you may want to consider to grow your business to the next level. For those of you who don't have a business, it will help you to look at some possibilities of businesses that you may want to consider. And then for some of you, you may make the decision to get out of the business that you're in and get into a whole new business, and so forth and so on. And so this interactive worksheets that we're going to give you is designed to do that. This is the first of 2 seminars. Today's seminar, again, will kind of set the stage for addressing who you are, what you want to do, and then we'll give you some homework. And I think that the next seminar is May the 7th. You will come back after working on your business with the homework that we're going to give you. And again, for those of you who don't have a business but want to be in business, it will give you a worksheet to work on the business that you want to start. At the end of the second session, the hope will be that you will have a guide that says, this is my business, here's where I am, here's where I need to be, here's some things that I need to do to take it to where I want to take it. Or if you are currently not in a business and you want to be in business, the homework assignment that we're going to give you will help you to rationalize your idea to determine whether it's a good idea or not. And so that's sort of the design of what we're trying to do. Okay, so again, what to expect today, valuable information to assist you in positioning and planning regarding your business growth, or if you're starting a new business, valuable information and resources to assist you with framing your business concepts and ideas. Now let me tell you something about the MMBC. Have any of you in the room ever heard about the Mid-South Minority Business Council Continuum, other than the community partners that we talked to before? Okay, well, thank you. The MMBC has been around for 40 years. Our basic business is to help minority and women-owned businesses grow. We were started out as a purchasing council, connecting minority businesses with purchase contract opportunities with major corporations. We still do that, but we've changed our name. We do a lot of development. Our whole concept is to take first-generation minority businesses from where they are, to grow them to hopefully become what we call $100 million revenue companies. And so we're on our way to doing that. So about us, we recognize the economic disparities that existed in the Memphis market. We are an accelerator to bridge the divide between major corporations and minority businesses who are competing with big businesses. And we believe that we're uniquely positioned to provide strategic growth solutions to impact economic development. Everything that we do is about strategy, and we believe that strategy, as we're going to share with you today, is very important even for your business. And so just to kind of give you some of our track record, we certify minority and women-owned businesses, and currently we have over 500 certified minority and women-owned businesses, and they span the globe. They cover, you know, there was for those of us who are old, there was a company called Central Hardware that existed, and they said that we sold everything from scoop to nuts. We've got minority businesses that do everything, you know, technology, the traditional janitorial, you know, software, the whole 9 yards. But we've got 500 minority businesses. We've got over 120 corporations, and we connect those minority and women-owned businesses to major corporations like Federal Express, International Paper, and ServiceMaster. Over the last 5 years, our connection services have generated about $800 million in contract awards to our member businesses. And it's also created about 3,000 plus jobs. And so we've got, 10 years ago, we had no minority businesses that had an individual contract of $1 million or more. We've got over 80 of our 500 businesses, not only with $1 million contracts, but multiple $1 million contracts for multiple years. And so this model that we're sharing with Henry and the ERDC and the community partners is the same model that we use to get these results. And we're hoping that that transfers also to the city of Pine Bluff. And so the seminar overview, we want to go over the economy, because the economy impacts how you can grow and how you determine whether or not there are opportunities for you. We want to talk about the new mindset of the new entrepreneur. 2008, the recession of 2008 changed a whole lot of dynamics, and business as usual is no longer the case. We want to talk about a concept called blue ocean strategies, and this is a concept that involves re-engineering your business. If you've got an existing business, how you can re-engineer, retrofit that business to basically cause it to grow more than it's growing. And then we want to talk about this life cycle approach that I talked about earlier, about determining what stage of the life cycle your business is in. And then we're going to bring to you Mike Powers, and he's going to talk about a critical ingredient in growing any business. You know, we need funding to grow our businesses. And so he's going to talk about credit and so forth and so on. And then we're going to come back and we're going to wrap it up. So, understanding today's economy. You know, the recession of 2008, even though every indicator tells you that it's over with, there are still lingering consequences of the economy. And major companies are still not hiring the way they did before 2008. There's a very different mindset. And I want to say, too, that the model that we have in Memphis is a business-to-business model where our minority business members do business with major corporations. Our seminar today is focusing in on any businesses, whether your customer is retail, whether your customer is a major company. But for those of you who either are retail or business to business, the recession of 2008 is still impacting your business. And the reason that it is, if you are in a consumer business, consumer spending still has not picked up. Most of us as consumers are still waiting on the other shoe to drop. We're still saving more money. We're afraid because of what we went through. There are a lot of job layoffs. And then for those of you who are in a business-to-business model where you do business with major corporations, major companies have changed the dynamic totally as to the way they do business. They've outsourced many departments, which could be considered an opportunity for you. They're looking for ways to save money. They're doing a whole host of things, but they're not spending as much money. And so that's a dynamic that still exists, but within it, there are some pluses and minuses that we want to share with you. Also, global issues still impact the U.S. domestic market. I mean, we see what's happening in China. We see what's happening in other countries. And what happens in China these days greatly impacts what happens here. And your point of reference may be, well, what does that have to do with Pine Bluff? It has a whole lot to do with Pine Bluff. The consumer goods that are being produced in China and the goods that were being produced before now, there's a change that's coming. The cost of doing business in China has gone up, and American manufacturers had plants in China. They were buying goods in China, and they were bringing them to this country at a lower price. And that basically took away the opportunity for us to have manufacturing here in the United States. Well, as the cost of doing business in China goes up, we've got something that's called reshoring, where light manufacturing in the U.S. is growing. And in communities that have lower wage rates than other communities, light manufacturing is coming back. And that's something that you guys need to consider. And even though light manufacturing doesn't pay what the tech jobs pay, you know, most tech jobs will pay $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Light manufacturing is $18,000 to $19,000 a year. But major companies are looking for U.S. companies now to basically do light manufacturing. They're actually pulling that business from China because it's costing too much to do it now. And so things that are happening in the global markets impact the U.S. markets, and it either creates opportunities for us here in Pine Bluff or it creates issues for us. Also, there's this term that's called global contagion. And global contagion refers to things that are happening abroad that impacts us here. Many of you probably know that the recession that we just came through was actually caused by the Chinese and the Japanese. And you may ask the question, how did that happen? Most of the mortgage loans that were made prior to 2008, the mortgage paper that U.S. mortgage companies generated, that paper was bought by Japanese and Chinese investors. They actually funded that whole concept. And when they stopped buying the paper, all of a sudden funding for housing went away. The reason that they backed away from it is because most of the mortgages that were made to U.S. consumers were based on a floating rate loan. And most of the loans were 5-year loans, and the rate reset after 5 years. What happened was, over that period of time, was rates went up, and when rates went up and your mortgage rate was reset, most consumers couldn't afford the new payment, and so they defaulted on the loan. And when they started defaulting, the Japanese backed out. All of the funding for the mortgage-backed securities dried up, and the banks almost went broke. But that's what caused, and so this whole mindset of global contagion and what's happening in the macro environment impacts what we do here. But at the same time, there are opportunities. There are things that are happening in the global market that create opportunities for you all here in Pine Bluff. So you just need to know what those are. As well, before 2008, the U.S. economy was considered to be at full employment when we had 3.5% of American workers out of work. Now they consider full employment to be 6.5%. And the reason that they've gone to a new higher unemployment or full employment rate is because a lot of these jobs will never return. But there's hope. And the hope is this light manufacturing that I'm talking about, that if we can start doing light manufacturing here in the U.S., there's an opportunity for jobs, for more jobs. And I'm saying that light manufacturing is an opportunity for all of you in this room. You just need to understand it. It's not heavy manufacturing. It's basically assembly, value add, and so forth and so on. But it is coming back to this country, and it's going to happen in communities that have lower wage rates and communities that don't have as high-skilled workers. Memphis is one of those communities. We don't have a lot of high-skilled workers. My assumption is that Pine Bluff is also a community that doesn't have a lot of high-skilled workers. But there's opportunity for you to start light manufacturing. And so all of this basically involves understanding the economy, what's happening that's an advantage for you, what's happening that's a disadvantage for you. So we talk about this new intersection, and that's primarily what I just finished, that there is a new intersection, but it's a mindset. You have to know what's going on, what's happening, and then you have to take advantage of it when it occurs. The new mindset, again, one of the things that we noticed in Memphis 7, 8 years ago is that most of our minority and women-owned businesses were in traditional businesses: janitorial, landscaping, food, restaurant, catering, courier services. And those are good businesses, but those businesses are overpopulated. Everybody and their brother gets into one of those businesses. When the unemployment rate goes up, the number of minority and women-owned businesses go up at the same rate. And it's because people have lost their incomes and they go to industries where there are low barriers to entry. All of us have a great recipe that we've had, and all of us believe that we can cook and sell it to the public. All of us have a lawnmower and we've cut our own grass. We basically take that mower and we start cutting lawns and we get into the lawn business. All of us have a vehicle, we get into courier services, and all we need is a mop and a bucket to get into the janitorial business. The problem with that is that everybody is in it. And the margins are low, it's a commodity business, and so I'm not knocking it, but the new mindset of the new entrepreneur, you got to focus on what's happening. You got to get out ahead of the curve relative to what's new that's going on, and not stay in your same mindset of, well, I'm going to do this because I know how to do it. You got to study it from a supply and demand. Joint venturing is the thing of the day. And why is joint venturing the thing of the day? It's the thing of the day because for you to grow, you'll never have enough capital on your own to basically start large businesses. And so what you do is you leverage partnerships. You know, if you're in a business and you're doing one part of that, instead of you doing it all, you joint venture with others who are in that business and you all bid contracts together. So joint venturing is a new mindset. That's how the world does business now. And we've got this term that solo is dead. You cannot do it by yourself. And if you want to hold on to what you have, in many cases you're holding on to nothing. 25% of something or 50% of something that's growing is worth more than 100% of something that's not growing. So joint venturing is a new mindset. Understanding underserved opportunities. Many corporations, for those of you who are doing business with corporations, corporations are having a hard time finding minority and women-owned businesses in certain segments. They just can't find it. And generally, the segments are the segments where there are barriers to entry. In other words, it requires some level of investment to get into it. You can't get into it overnight. But there are big-time returns in these underserved industries. So you got to understand what is underserved. What are major corporations looking for that minority companies don't provide? And then again, going public-private partnerships. In Pine Bluff, like every other community, the government basically has infrastructure that they have to be charged with. They either are redeveloping downtowns, or they're developing riverfronts, or they're developing something. And government has finally figured out that all government knows is how to run government. They don't know how to run businesses. And so there are private-public partnerships where you can basically enter into an agreement with the municipality where they will fund part of your investment. They will either gift you land, or either they will provide you a grant to basically open a for-profit business that benefits the public, but it provides jobs and it creates wealth, income, and profit for you. So you want to consider what we call public-private partnerships. Also, going public. The fastest segment of the international market is minority and women-owned businesses. And the internet has made it suitable for anybody to do import and export sales. I mean, through the internet, you don't have to have a brick and mortar building. You've got to have foreign partners to do business. But minorities are growing very rapidly. Asian businesses, Hispanic-owned businesses are the fastest growing business in international trade. And so that's something that you should consider also. Also, as I stated earlier, a secondary core competency. I'll give you an example. We've got a business in Memphis who has traditionally provided medical supplies to the healthcare industry. And what they do is they logistically buy these medical supplies, and they buy them in bulk, and they logistically stage it, break the orders up, and deliver them to different departments. And some of the hospital organizations may have 40 different locations, but they will basically buy it in bulk, basically take the orders from the different departments, put it together, and basically truck it to each of these departments. Well, that's their primary core competency. We started talking to them. We do in Memphis what we call strategic growth plans. We help our member companies to do growth plans, and ours are real sophisticated plans. In fact is, what we're going to try to do with you guys with this seminar is to kind of point you in a direction for you to kind of develop your own growth plan. But in their growth plan, when we talk about a secondary core competency, we say you're delivering these medical supplies to these hospital locations, and the truck that you're delivering them in is half full. You've got a dedicated driver, you've got the cost of the truck, and you're delivering. Why not think of something else that the healthcare industry does versus medical supplies that you can do, and develop another business where you leverage the assets that you already have to that same customer? And what they did was they got into office supplies. Hospital organizations use office supplies. So now their trucks are full. Half medical supplies, half office supplies, delivering them to the same customer, same location. They've expanded their business, they've grown their business without an appreciable increase in cost. And so we are very, very strong on leveraging the resources that you already have to have two competencies, two businesses in one. As well, all things digital. I mean, we're becoming a tech society. Minorities use technology more than any other group. And not only are the apps being used, cell phones, banking products, and so forth and so on, but anything digital you need to be considering. You need to be, because the digital age is here. Our kids, my kids, are very, very tech savvy. I'm not. But my grandkid is even more tech savvy than my son. And so looking at ways that you can come up, I mean, you know, Facebook, we had a company 3-4 years ago that started an insurance company to provide insurance for cell phone users. You know, where people use cell phones, they break them, break the face of them, or whatever the case may be. Well, we've become a society where we can't do it without cell phones. And so when the cell phones break, this particular company insures it. They provide a new cell phone as a replacement, and they repair your phone, and they get your phone back to you where you've got a phone at all times. That business and their major customer are actually minority consumers, because minority uses cell phones in a significant way. But that business has gone from zero startup 3 years ago to a $20 million business over 3 years. Again, ideas, the hope, the new mindset, the non-traditional janitorial catering businesses, you got to look at and study the market and understand what's going on in the major market to determine where there's an opportunity for you. Growth industries and market. And I've kind of covered some of this. There's a disproportionate amount of minority businesses in low to no growth industries, janitorial and landscaping. Understanding your industry's forecasted growth rate is key. What we're going to do later on, let me get a show of hands. How many of you have existing businesses? Okay, the majority of you. How many of you are here looking to go into a new business? Okay, we got 3 or 4. And then there are some of you who basically, from some of the growth opportunities, a new concept could be a secondary core competency for you. And then, like I said, some of you may even determine, after you looked at some of this information that we're going to give to you, you may determine, I want to scrap the business I'm in and I want to go into this new business. And so that's okay too. But most minorities are in these low growth businesses. Understanding your industry's growth forecast is key to growth. Let me give you an example. If you're in an industry, and we're going to give you some industrial classifications for you to look up and know what your industry growth rate is. If your industry growth rate is 5% every year, and your growth rate is 1%, you're doing something wrong, right? If the reverse is in order, your business is growing greater than the industry, obviously you're doing something right, right? And so understanding all of those dynamics, you may need to look at new industries to determine an innovative growth strategy for existing industries. A rule of thumb for me is that whatever investment you've made in your business, you are due a return. And the rationale for that is this. If you had $10,000 that you put into your business, and your business is losing money now, and a lot of businesses are, when you study the industry for your business, if the industry projects growth for the industry, and you believe that your business is going to get better and you can do some new things to grow it, then you need to know what you should expect in terms of a return. Because the reality is that you could take, alternatively, that $10,000 and put it in the stock market or put it in a government bond and get a return and go home and sit down, or go home or go and get a job, versus putting 10 in your business and you're losing money, you're worried every day about how you're going to make payroll, and you're trying to figure out how to keep your employees, and you're not getting the return. And so if you're not getting at least the market return off what you've got invested in your business, you may want to consider getting out of that business, okay? And so some of the exercise that we'll get into will take you through that as well. Okay, here's some of the top 10 fastest growing industries, and I don't know if y'all can see that, but it says there social network game development. That's the tech side of it. you know, its the annualized growth rate is 134%. E-books and publishing, 88%. Social networking sites, 74%. Online fashion samples, all of this is internet digital stuff that I talked about earlier. Online payment processing systems, online greeting cards, all of that stuff is technology. You can see how rapidly that industry is growing. And I don't want you to get discouraged by this, thinking that the great ideas are already taken. People are coming up with ideas every day. Every day you get on your cell phone, there's a new app. Somebody has created that app recently. And so I wanted to share that with you. Other considerations that you may want to consider: healthcare. Healthcare is one of the fastest growing industries around. I think that the forecast says that 2 out of every new jobs created in this country will be connected to healthcare. And there are many things that you can do in healthcare. Hospitals are buying everything. They're buying construction services, they're buying technology services, they're buying meds, they're buying food, they're buying the whole host of anything that's needed. Hospitals are buying. It's a huge industry, but it's growing very, very rapidly. That's an industry that you need to look into because there's all kinds of growth opportunities. Minority consumers. If you're in the retail business, minority consumers are growing at a far rapid rate than majority consumers. All of the data suggests that by the year 2050, America will be a brown country, meaning that Asians, African Americans, Hispanics, American Indians will be the majority consumer. Folks who are on the front end of that opportunity are studying their buying habits. I'm trying to remember the number. Minority consumers spend trillions of dollars in this country, and the rate of consumption of products that they're going to be purchasing is going to go up exponentially. So anything in that area where the market is growing, you need to consider selling to minority and consumers. Bioscience is growing rapidly. You know, have any of y'all heard of bioagriculture? Bioag is the concept of taking plants versus fossil fuels and basically making everything. These rugs, tables, and so forth and so on. The area of the country that we're in is a fertile area, and there are a lot of different layers of bioag. As well, you know, in the bioag, they're trying to come up with alternative energy sources and so forth, but bioscience is growing. Green technology, everybody wants green. Everybody's trying to protect the environment now. And major companies, if you are a construction company or any kind of company, and you do business with a major company, they're going to ask you, what is your green policy? Are you LEED certified? Those are things that you need to consider. Multifamily housing. Now, why is multifamily housing something that's growing? We just left the recession. All of these people who lost their homes, who can't qualify for loans anymore, the banks are not going to make the same mistake again. They're not going to lend money to these same people to foreclose on them again. These folks had to live somewhere. So all of a sudden, I don't know if it's happening in Pine Bluff, but in Memphis, there are apartment complexes coming up every place. And so anything that has to do with multifamily housing, furniture, the construction trades, whatever, but that is a growing market. Educational services. I mean, everybody knows that our country's public education system is in trouble. And technology, anything that's related to education is growing as well. These are distressed industries. And, you know, we've got the revenue in millions of dollars. You know, we've got energy, food production, manufacturing, and so forth and so on. These are industries that are under stress. Okay, JV, strategic alliances, and teaming. We talked earlier about joint ventures. Everybody is familiar with Walmart. and I know you Arkansans are familiar with Walmart because the company was founded here. But Walmart is the #1 retailer in the world. If you are a provider for Walmart, Walmart does business in the United States, they do business in China. Everywhere there's a place to do business, Walmart does business. Do you believe that suppliers to Walmart supply Walmart globally by themselves? It'd be impossible. They could not set up a plant everywhere Walmart does business. What they do is they create joint ventures. And for Walmart stores in foreign countries, Walmart has a partner that they partner with that provides that product. And so joint ventures is the game. We've come up with this term that solo is dead. You cannot grow your business and think that you can do it by yourself. It won't happen. You may be able to stay the size that you are, but you will not be able to do that. And a joint venture is any combination of partners that you bring to the table to help you to grow. We've got members in our book in Memphis where we've put like businesses together to expand capacity. We've got members in our book where we've put different businesses at different parts of the supply chain together to bid contracts. And they're bidding much larger contracts than they could bid on their own through joint ventures. And so joint ventures and strategic alliances is important. It expands your capacity and your geographic footprint. I mean, if you had a business here in Pine Bluff and you've honed it and it does well, and it's a business that works for you because your hands are on it, but it's a great concept, and you want to expand to other markets, you may want to consider getting a partner in another geographic market and either franchising or basically providing your recipe to them for an investment in the business and expand your business. But joint ventures is the order of the day. And we've had, and I just need to say this, we've had this issue in Memphis with minority and women-owned businesses where the owner, you know, like one of you, you've started a business, it's done very well for you, you've been able to grow it to a level, and the reason you've been able to grow it to the level is because the size of it is such that you put your hands on everything. You touch every customer, you handle every product, and so forth and so on. But you've gotten to a point where you can't grow it because to grow it, you don't have enough hands. And in a lot of cases, there's a reluctance to joint venture because it's your baby. You don't want to compromise it. You don't want anybody else in your business and so forth and so on. And I'm just telling you, you got to get over that. And you got to select the right partner. You know, it's like a marriage. You know, you select people that you've got chemistry with, that you trust, and so forth and so on. And so joint ventures is the thing, but it also increases your efficiency. You can't be all things to all people. And then it maximizes limited resources. Again, you don't have the capital investment to be everywhere with everybody.
Mr. Cannon, can you expound on the City of Memphis IT contract as an example?
Yes. The City of Memphis has put out for bid their IT contract, and the contract before this time was with a company out of, a large national company out of California. And we were working with the city, and we basically said, you know, these are opportunities that minorities are not basically bidding because the contract is too big, and we want you to work with us to create a joint venture with a major company and many minority companies who do different things relative to what's required in the contract. The city listened to us. We worked with 3 large companies. The contract went to a company called SAIC, and it was a joint venture. 40% of the delivery was with minority and women-owned businesses, where SAIC worked with these companies. Some of the companies had to be Oracle certified, certain companies had to have this qualification, but minority companies ended up getting 40% of a $27 million contract. And it wouldn't have happened had we not pushed the joint venture piece. There was no way for any of those smaller minority companies to even think about bidding that contract by themselves. But because they entered into a joint venture where they agreed, I'll do this portion of it, you do this portion of it, I'll do this portion of it. But that joint venture came about as a result of that. Okay, underserved opportunities. We talked about that earlier, where corporations are looking for minority companies where they've had challenges before finding them, and procurement executives having challenges sourcing minority suppliers in various industries. These underserved industries represent huge growth opportunities because there's big spend in them. I mean, there are areas, you know, we're working with a major company right now, who I won't name, whose spend with minority companies is down, and they want to improve that very rapidly. And they're saying to us, you know, we could take years and we could do business with this small minority contractor on this small piece of spend, but we spend major money in given areas. We need you to help us find minority companies who do this, this, and this. And what we do is we find those companies. When that competency doesn't exist, we actually put together joint ventures to create it. We're doing a job of pulling in major companies who have an expertise, a majority company with a minority company, for the express purpose of the minority company learning that trade to take advantage of that spend category. And so understanding what corporations are looking for, understanding the new landscape of how you can do business, and not continuing to look for janitorial, courier service opportunities, but the new opportunities. And then, of course, in some of these areas, there are high barriers to entry, and Henry has an incubator here. We have an incubator in Memphis, and our incubator is an incubator that incubates minority companies in underserved industries where the barriers to entry are high, where we work with them to either find capital or partners to JV with them to get them into the industry. Public-private partnerships we talked about earlier, leverage programs and incentives that will assist your business growth. Like I said, most cities either have incentive dollars that are local dollars, state dollars, or federal dollars to improve the cityscape, improve the infrastructure, and there's opportunity for you to partner with the city. They've got the funding, you've got the expertise, create a public-private partnership and go after some of that business. We talked about downtown redevelopment initiatives, special energy incentives, the Department of Energy, which I think Henry has taken advantage of, and maybe some of you. There are grants through the Department of Energy where they're trying to come up with alternative energy sources, and it scans the gamut. You need to be looking into that, looking into opportunities where the government, whether it's federal, state, or local, will fund you in a public-private partnership to grow your business. Workforce incentives. Many of you employ people, and everything that we're trying to do, that Henry's trying to do, that all of the collaborative partners are trying to do here in Pine Bluff is centered around growing jobs. And so to the extent that you can expand and you get a contract and you can pay some of your employees with incentive dollars that come from the city or from the state or federal government, there are programs around who will not only provide those workers to you at a deeply discounted rate because their salaries are subsidized by some grant, they will also train them for you. They will also prepare them for what you do prior to them showing up. In other words, you can select the employee, say this is what we do, this is how we do it. We want our employees trained to do this before they show up day one. All of us have had the experience, me in particular, of interviewing people and people telling you on their resumes that they do this, 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 and this. And you hire them, and everything on their resume is false. They can't do it. You've hired them. Sometimes you're stuck with them, can't get rid of them But there are programs around that will actually train these employees on what you do and make sure that they're competent at it before you take them on, and will also have subsidies to basically pay part of their salary. Commercial and agricultural partnerships through the USDA. You know, there are programs, you know, the federal government provides funding for fisheries. They provide funding for a litany of other things that this country has a shortage on, where government participation has to be there to incent people to invest in it. But you want to look into that as well. Going global, minority firms are more likely to export. We covered that earlier. Industries most likely to have export sales. Wholesale trading companies, manufacturing, we talked about light manufacturing. Management of companies and enterprises, retail trade and information. You see the graphic, the bar graph to the right view, percent of exporting firms, and it basically shows in the United States minority firms versus non-minority, and you see where there are more minority firms than non-minority firms in exporting in the area of 500,000 to $1 million. And then you see in $1 million plus in sales that still more minority companies exporting. And again, Asian Americans do it well, Hispanics do it well, African Americans are poor at it. But again, the internet is a great tool to start a trade business because your overhead is very low and so forth. And there are programs that are federal government programs that will help you get into importing and exporting through many of the government programs. We talked about secondary core competency. I gave you the example of the medical supply company that created a core competency in office supplies. That's something that you really, really need to consider. Many of the things that you do to customers that you already have, and the customers are happy with you, you've basically gotten past the first base. If they're happy with what you do and they're confident that they can trust you and so forth and so on, developing a secondary product or service that you provide to them is easy because you've already proven to them that the product or service that you currently provide to them, you do a great job of it. And like the example that I had of the medical office supply company, they knew that the deliveries were always on time, the order quantities were always right, the price was always right. So it wasn't a big decision to give them their office supply business. Plus, there's an advantage in bidding. I mean, in that example, if the medical supply company already had the cost of the trucks, already had the cost of the driver, it was really just the additional weight that had an impact, a minor impact on the gasoline, but there was not a whole lot of cost. And so when they bid it, they could bid it low because they didn't have to factor into expenses that they already had to the same company. So opportunities to supplement. We got an example here of concrete contractor that depends on construction projects, develops a secondary competency to do joint seal repair. We have companies in Memphis, and this is a great example of a secondary core competency and also an underserved market. The Memphis International Airport buys what they call joint sealing services from one of 3 major companies in the U.S. who does it. And what they do is they have to seal, you know, their deck panels on the runway. They're made in panels. And obviously the airport has to keep the seal on those because if they don't, in the wintertime when it rains and it freezes, they'll buckle up. And none of us want that to happen, right? So they have to constantly seal those joints. And the airport authority in Memphis spends $7 million a year sealing joints. But there are no minority companies in joint sealing. And so we worked with the airport, and we got several of our minority concrete contractors, and we had the airport to bring in one of the other 3 major joint sealing companies to actually teach our minority concrete contractors how to seal joints. And that program is going on now, And not only does the minority company that's developed have the opportunity to do business with the Memphis airport, they've got opportunity to do business with airports all over the globe because that service is needed by everyone. But this concrete contractor who basically pours slabs to build new buildings and so forth, they're still doing that, but they're also in the joint seal business. And so they developed a secondary core competency in an underserved market. Again, everything that we're talking to you about centers around thinking outside the box, not thinking traditionally. Again, the new mindset of the new consumer. All things digital, we talked about that before. We talked about it from a product sales perspective, but again, you need to think about that even in your own shops. One of the challenging areas that we have with our members is that our members don't use technology the way they should. In some cases, to do business with major companies, you have to be set up and have the software to integrate with their payment systems. And we got a lot of minority companies that cannot do that because they don't have that in place. As well, you want to use technology as an efficiency measure because you want to keep your head count low relative to employees. And so all things digital, and that's one thing that minorities have shied away from. At one point, we had an issue where we could not send out opportunities to all of our members because all of our members weren't set up on the internet. And when we, 7, 8 years ago, we had members telling us, well, fax it to me. We don't do that anymore. If you don't have a computer and you can't interface with us, you don't get opportunities. Okay. So, value innovation. There's a book that I brought with me that's in the truck. It's called Blue Ocean Strategies. Have any of y'all heard about this book? It's one that you need to read. And I'll give you the concept of it, and then we'll show a video. But the concept involves this whole thing that we've been talking about earlier, where you're in a traditional business and you've gotten into it because the barriers of entry are low. Whether you all know this or not, most minority and women-owned businesses got into business because they lost their job. They didn't get into business because they studied the market, they looked at what was in demand, who needed this, what's happening in China, and so forth and so on. They basically needed to replace their income. And like I said, that they knew how to do themselves, that's how they got into business. Well, those businesses, janitorial, landscaping, are what they call red ocean businesses. And the reason they call them red ocean businesses is because you got more supply than demand. Hence, you got most of the companies losing money. Red ink, red ocean. Okay? This book that these two professors wrote, Dr. Chan and Dr. Renee Mombard, wrote this book and basically said, if you're going to be in business, you need to have a blue ocean strategy. And that strategy either needs to be you're creating something new, you're creating a new mousetrap, which is hard to do, or looking at the business that you're in and figuring out how to differentiate it, do something that your competition isn't doing, and do it well, and create a blue ocean or create profits where there are losses. And so it's a critical book because what it tells you is if you're in a red ocean business, meaning that you're in a business that everybody else is in and that everything is driven off of price and you're having a hard time competing, you may either need to get out of the business, shut it down, or figure out a way to re-engineer it. And let me give you such an industry before we look at this. How many of you all are familiar with AutoZone? AutoZone was started by a Memphian. His name is Pitt Hyde. Pitt Hyde's family was in the wholesale food industry. And it was Malone and Hyde, and they provided food to grocery stores. That business became a red ocean. And it became a red ocean because there were a number of factors, but the bottom line is that in that industry, traditionally, food distributors made money from inflation. In other words, as the price of food went up, as they would buy bulk quantities of food and they would warehouse it, before they could sell it all, the price had gone up. But their basis was at the old price. And so they were selling forward inventory that they purchased yesterday at today's price. And so they had profit margin in it. Well, during the 70s, when everything hit rock bottom and prices fell, they lost their shirt because the reverse happened. They were buying food at yesterday's price, and actually the price went down. And so they were upside down. So anyway, that was a red ocean business for them. And so they tried to figure out how to get into another business. And they got into another red ocean business with a blue ocean idea. They got into the automobile parts business. Automobile parts business and jobbers have been around ever since cars have been around. And the automobile retailers, their whole claim to fame was that you come in here looking for a part for a 1937 Model T, we got it. We're not going to turn you away. Well, the problem with that business is that you got to have a part for every car that's made. And some of these cars don't exist. You don't control when the part, and so you're carrying that part and the inventory cost in it forever. And so they looked at that business and they said, what's wrong with this business? How can we re-engineer it and make it better? And so they determined that we want to be in the do-it-yourself business, because most of the automobile parts folks were selling to mechanics, service stations, and so forth and so on. So they looked at the do-it-yourself business and they only inventoried stuff that we could replace. Windshield wiper blades, changing our oil, for the older cars, spark plugs, waxes, and so forth and so on. Stuff that would sell very rapidly. And the stuff, and if someone came in to them and said, I need a part for a 1937 T model Ford, they would not turn them back, because that's the motto in that industry. But they would say, come back in 30 minutes. And they would go to the parts guy who's got the 30 and buy it and have it for the customer. AutoZone started on a market that was saturated with jobbers. They're the lead in the market. They're a global company. They've got over 4,000 stores. But they took a red ocean industry and re-engineered it, understood it. FedEx did the same thing. Post office has been in the business forever, delivering packages. Fred Smith looked at the industry, determined what was wrong, determined the niche that he wanted to go after. He wanted to go after the business overnight delivery package service, and basically started an airline and a trucking company to deliver packages overnight. They're #1 in the world now. But those are strategies. And so we want to show you a small clip about what Blue Ocean Strategies is about.
In the world of business today, many companies are swimming in the red ocean of bloody competition. To obtain profitable growth, they should sail into blue oceans of uncontested market space. To understand how to succeed in this, a research spanning over 100 years and 30 industries was conducted. The results show that companies should stop competing head-on in existing industry space. They should create blue oceans, making the competition irrelevant.
continue to help expand overall consumption here in the U.S. Is to make it easier for the consumer. And one of the ways we can make it easier is to go after the other 88% of the population that doesn't own the corkscrews.
People have been telling me that they've made it an everyday pleasure rather than a special occasion indulgence. And I think that's what wine needs to be. But I feel that wine needs to take the step towards the public and make it much more approachable. So we put together a wine style that we thought would not only be, I guess, pleasing to the general wine drinker, but also to the new wine drinker, so we could bring new people to the wine fold.
Within the industry, what the library did, they looked across industries to theater, to music, to ballet, to television shows, took some elements of those TV shows, the theater, some elements of traditional library, and reconstructed a whole new market space. And doing that, they grew demand, pulled in many new customers to the industry, and set themselves on this big buzz of a lot of free marketing in the marketplace. So they use what you call the first pass, which is looking across alternative industries to reconstruct the library and open up a new market space in between. That is how they're applying Blue Ocean strategy.
This is 15 years of research, and we started looking at companies that were doing something different that stood apart. What is it that unites all these exceptional companies? We started realizing they're asking similar sets of questions that are different from everybody else.
Okay. We're saying that for you to succeed, you've got to come up with a strategy that is different, that competing against everybody in a world where there are more companies than there are needs for the products that you're trying to sell is not going to change. You got to figure out how to get into something new or to differentiate yourself. And so on this chart here, the one on the left basically shows a red ocean strategy, and it says that you're a company and you're competing in an existing marketplace, and your mindset is beat the competition. And whether beat the competition is on price or whatever the case may be, but it's like a herd trying to get to the same destination, and whoever's fastest gets there first. You're trying to exploit existing demand, make value cost trade-offs. Blue ocean strategies involves creating what they call uncontested market space, where you have differentiated yourself, like AutoZone, a space that they're in by themselves. They're able to make profits and grow. Make the competition irrelevant. That's what AutoZone did. Most of these houses have gone out of business, and there are copycats in the industry where they basically changed their model to look like AutoZone's model. Create and capture new demand. We talked about underserved industries. Basically, there are areas where minorities are not competing that you need to know about, and those are the areas that you should basically focus on, not where everybody else is, but where there is no competition. And then break the value cost trade-off. In today's market, if you're doing business with major corporations and you're selling to them, 9 times out of 10, they're trying to do it more efficiently. And a lot of times, they don't know how to do it more efficiently. A lot of times it takes you studying them and using the process of discovery to figure out ways that you can save them money and make money for you. There's a lot of outsourcing taking place. You know, companies that had their in-house maintenance area, they had in-house printing, had a whole litany of in-house departments. Many of these companies are looking to outsource those. If you're in that business, let's say you're a printer, and you've got all of the equipment to print and so forth and so on, a new market for you may be to go to a major corporation and basically offer them a price to do their printing, to shut down their print shop in-house and allow you to do their printing. You could do it for substantially less because you already have the equipment. It is probably likely that you've got unused capacity. And so it's that sort of thinking that you need to think through. Align the whole system of companies' activities in pursuit of differentiation and low cost. And that's what you all have to do, is to differentiate your businesses. In the book, they talk about making your business more efficient, or looking at your potential customers to help them to make their business more efficient, and using the process of discovery, the things that they need but are costly, to reduce it. In some cases, if they're doing something that does not add value, eliminate it, or if it's something that they need new, to create it, or if there's something that's working either for them or for you, to raise it. I would recommend this book to all of you all. And Yolanda, help me with the art. It's Blue Ocean Strategies. It's Chan.
Kim, and I don't know how to pronounce her name. M-O-U.
Mara, get it for them. But two books that I would recommend for you. Blue Ocean Strategies. How many of you have heard of Good to Great? Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. You need to read that book, because it talks about the transformation from a mediocre, good company to a great company. And it compares and contrasts the companies that do it well, how they do it, what their leadership is about, how they differentiate themselves. But I would recommend very highly these two books. Again, Blue Ocean Strategies, and she's going to give you the author. It was on the screen.
It's at the bottom, on the right side.
It's at the bottom? Yeah, it's Kim and M-A-U-B-O-R-G-N-E. Chan Kim, and what was her name? It's on one of the charts. We'll get that for you. But the Good to Great book is Jim Collins, and it is a great read. Okay, they're going to pass you out some questionnaires, and this is the first questionnaire that we want you to fill out. And it basically is a questionnaire that tells us who you are, gives us what your revenues are, what your employees are. The reason that we want to capture this information is because the whole intent is, one, to help you grow your company, grow your revenues, hire more people, and so forth and so on. And so we need you to fill out that sheet and turn it back in to us. But we're also going to give you a sheet in the second half of the program that's going to help you to know who you are, what you do, and how do you grow to the next level. And so we're going to ask that you fill that questionnaire out, and then we're going to take a break, right? And it's a 10-minute break, and we'll come back immediately and we'll start the second part of the session, which will be sort of interactive, where you will be able to write down those things that impact your business and some of the things that you can do to improve your business. So with that, once you finish your questionnaire, we've got donuts, coffee, and water outside, and we'll restart in 10 minutes. Thank you.